Our goal is to turn Glace into kind of the next great dessert concept. And we don't want to be kind of pigeonholed by being an ice cream shop or by being a hot chocolate shop. And even though this probably the smart thing would be to kind of boil it down into its like core product, and I like the creative aspect of it.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to New Money, where we talk to movers and shakers about how they made it. I'm your host, Rosemarie Miller, here with Sasha Zabar, the CEO and founder of Glace. Thank you so much for joining me today, Sasha.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and this is New Money, and we talk to movers and shakers about how they made it. That's what we're doing here. And your ice cream shop, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Glace. It blew up all over social media. Tell me about that.
It's been kind of an unbelievable 2 months or 3 months now. But we opened Glace on June 1st, and we built it for $25,000 in 6 weeks. It was kind of a rush to get open for the summer. And we had a very good summer. I don't know if you remember, but the weather wasn't great. We had we were busiest on the weekends, and we had rain a bunch of weekends. Mm-hmm. And I really thought, like, when September comes around, also we're located on 91st in Madison, which is a very residential neighborhood, and there's a lot of there's like 4 or 5 private schools in a 1 block or 2 block radius. Mm-hmm. And there's the Guggenheim, the Jewish Museum, Cooper Hewitt. So there's a lot of museums as well. And I really thought when September comes around and the schools are back in session and the weather gets better, that the business was just going to continue to take off. Mm-hmm. And instead, we had basically like 7 weekends of rain in a row in September. Mm-hmm. And so I was kind of always thinking, what are we going to do in the winter? You know, I think you have to be in the ice cream business to really know what the seasonality looks like. And because this was our first year, we just weren't sure, like, is our sales going to drop 20%, 50%, 80%? And I remember the first kind of really cold, rainy day in November. I looked at on the POS app on my phone. I was coming back from a work trip, and we did like $350 in sales that day. And I remember thinking, like, oh God, like, this is going to be bad. What are we going to do? And I put together a kind of a hot drinks menu. Mm-hmm. I mean, we did a couple of things. We did hot waffles, and we did a bunch of kind of different sundaes that I thought were more kind of cold weather focused, and we put together a hot drinks menu. Mm-hmm. And one of the items on the hot drinks menu was our s'mores hot chocolate.
Yes.
And it didn't take off right away, but everyone who had it loved it. And there was kind of this moment when the customer we would hand it over to the customer, and they would look at it, and you could see how excited they were to try it and how delicious it looked. Mm-hmm. And I thought, you know, if we can just get enough people to try this, get it into enough people's hands, I think we might just be able to do enough business to get through the winter. Mm-hmm.
And how did you get it into the right people's hands? Because it blew up all over TikTok, all over Instagram.
It did. And I wish I could say I was a marketing genius and pulled all the right levers and knew the right people to call at the right time. But what I think happened is, I think we had a lot of fans who loved the ice cream we were making over the summer, mm-hmm. and appreciated the quality ingredients we were using. And we make everything in-house, from the caramel to the fudge to every cookie that goes in the ice cream, to we make the ice cream ourselves, our soft serve, which a lot of people loved, and we made we cultured a frozen yogurt from scratch, mm-hmm. that had a lot of fans. And so I think we had a couple influencers who had come in over the summer who admired and appreciated what we did. And so I think when they heard that we were doing some new things for the winter, they just came in on their own. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't even paid social. I mean, they paid for the drinks. It wasn't. They didn't even ask me. I mean, I would have been thrilled to give away, you know, come in, try that chocolate. Yeah. But they came in on their own. The first person I remember was an influencer named Carboholic, Rachel Brotman, mm-hmm. and she and just right before Thanksgiving, she must have come in, and I didn't see her post, but I started to get a lot of activity on social media on my phone. So I started getting like, my phone would vibrate, every minute, or and I would getting like beeps and dings, and so I knew something was happening, and I could feel it. And we started getting more followers, and there was an uptick in people coming into the store, and we went from selling 10 hot chocolates a day to 15 to 25 to 30. So it felt like the momentum was shifting, and then. I don't remember the exact moment when it kind of like reached critical mass and it started to like really run. But one influencer came in named New York City Food Faves, and she posted a video. It was good, but I can't say the video was nicer or higher quality than the rest, but it was just at the right time, at the right moment, done the right way. And it blew up, and I think she has like 50 million views, and that's what really started the madness.
And the lines out the door, I saw in the comments that the lines would sometimes be 30 minutes, hours long. How did y'all as a business keep up with that demand?
So it was in the beginning, when I opened the ice cream shop, it was kind of a side project for me. I was working for my family's business. My grandfather started Zabar's on the West Side. My father, Eli, split off and started his own business in the 70s. And I was kind of managing both, working full-time for my dad, and then also managing the ice cream shop on the side. And so when it started to pick up, I would kind of go in before work. I'd prep all the ingredients. I'd make all the recipes. I'd make the marshmallow. I'd make the hot chocolate. I'd make the whipped cream. And then I would come in after work, and I would do it again at night, so they were ready for the next day, kind of like keep going, or make it for the evening. And then I started coming in before work, at lunch, and after work. And then I started coming in, I have a business meeting. I'd run out and start helping. And then right away it was like, I can't do both. I need to focus on Glace. We're having a moment, and we needed to really take advantage of it. And the hardest thing was when you reach a certain point, like the quantities get too big, you can no longer keep up with the equipment we had. So like we didn't have a mixer big enough to make the marshmallow. So at one point it was like from like 5 a.m. to 12 o'clock at night, nonstop. It was just me making marshmallow, or like you don't have pots big enough to cook large enough amounts of hot chocolate, or you run out of milk, and you go to 2 supermarkets and you buy 6 cases, and you buy them out. And so I think one of the greatest things was that because I am in a food family business, there were resources that I could lean on, like borrowing employees from other businesses when it got crazy, or transitioning from making the marshmallow ourselves to making it at our commissary with large scale industrial mixers. Without that, it would have been very hard to hit the numbers that we ended up hitting and are hitting now.
Well, Sasha, let's go back a little bit. What made you even decide to open an ice cream shop? I mean, there's tons of ice cream shops around, right? Why did you decide to do this? You already explained why you did it in that location, but did you really believe, like, okay, my business is going to be profitable, it's going to make it?
There are a lot of ice cream shops, but there aren't a lot of good ice cream shops. There are a bunch of chains in New York, and New York's a very hard climate to be in the retail business. The rents are high, labor's expensive, and I think that I thought that if we really made something delicious, that people would come for it.
Yeah.
And they did in the summer when it was warm, but it wasn't until we kind of figured out the hot chocolate that it really exploded.
I know you said there was a day where y'all only made, $350?
Yeah.
Was there ever a moment where you thought, we're going to go out of business?
Yeah, definitely. I think not out of business. I think that I was going to start by shutting down for the winter, maybe closing for 2 months, and I really didn't want to, because I had two really good employees at the time. And I didn't want them to have to look for work. I didn't want to have to go out and find new employees for the summer. But I thought, like, you know, if we're only doing this much business and our labor is running at X, then it almost will be less expensive to just like eat the rent for 2 months, stop. And it's very hard to make, you know, like when you're busy, you can like have a team making ice cream, but when it's really slow, it's hard. You can't make tiny batches. So there's a lot of ingredient costs. There's a lot of labor that goes into it, and you need a little bit of scale to make it work. And so yeah, it was tough. It was scary.
So let's pivot a little bit to the overall business. What tips do you have for someone who is trying to start a business, their own brick and mortar restaurant, dessert shop?
Yeah. I mean, I have a couple of suggestions. I mean, I also have a couple of lessons that I wish I had done a little bit differently. One thing is, like, I think it's really important when you're starting out to be scrappy and not spend more money than you have, not spend more money than you feel comfortable with, do as much of the work yourself as possible. But before you open, the more work you can get done before you open, the better off you'll be. And that goes from anywhere from the branding to like SOPs, standard operating procedures, employee handbooks, because like the minute you open, those kind of little details become less important, or you become too busy, and it becomes very hard to kind of get ahead of it when you're in the middle of it. So, you know, being organized, being prepared, pushing yourself to get as much done before you open the doors. And then I think, like, you have to keep pushing. Like, we were very lucky lucky in some ways, but that, you know, we were only 6 months old when the business kind of exploded. But people always ask me what the hardest part was, and it was really in the period before the video went viral, when business was really terrible and we were trying new ideas. And, you know, it takes a lot of diligence and a lot of determination to come in, make a fresh batch every day. The next day, even though, you know, it may not be bad, like the whipped cream may not, you know, like you need to basically have the fortitude to say, hey, I'm not going to serve, this is not 100%. I'm going to throw this out. I'm going to start over. I want every day, every product, every customer to have the best experience, and not cut corners. And just kind of hang in long enough until the momentum changes.
Well, this is new money, so we do have to talk about money. How did you learn how to manage your money?
You know, one of my best friend, Brian, who actually has been helping me a little bit with the business, and he comes from a very analytical perspective. He always wants to kind of, you know, have all the numbers and be as organized as possible, and on a day-to-day basis know, you know, how labor is changing and your overtime and food costs. I do it a little differently. I kind of I keep track of food cost. I keep track of labor, but it's more of like an idea or a goal number in my head. And the truth is, like, when you're really busy and you're doing a lot of business, it's like volume cures all ills. It's like, as long as you're busy, you're in good shape. The hard part is when things slow down. So, like, when we went from a good summer to a slow fall winter, that's when you kind of have to like really take a look at the numbers and say, hey, are our margins okay? Is our labor okay? You know, with the kind of like tipping changes that have happened in the last couple of years, and now every POS system, you know, asks the customer for $1 or $2 or $3 tip. Like, in many ways, it afforded me a little bit of some wiggle room, because my employees were still making pretty good money off of tips, and it allowed me to keep my labor percentage lower than I would have had to in the past. You know, if they were making $25 an hour, you know, only $15 or $16 of it was coming from labor, and the rest was coming from tips, which allows you to attract a higher, you know, kind of a more talented, you know, group of a better team. But managing money, you know, I'm very lean on my spending. I take no money for myself from the business. My goal is to basically, how long can we go before we have to spend $1? I mean, I'll push everything out as far as possible, just because it makes me feel more comfortable having the money in my bank account than paying, than owing it to somebody else, or
So you're
spending
putting
it.
all the money you're making from the business back into the
Exactly,
business, basically.
exactly. And I tell everyone, like, this is our time to double down, to really go all in, and don't spend on anything that you don't need to spend on. Don't take a salary if you can afford to, and just put all the money back into the business.
So what do you believe is the biggest and best purchase you've made for the business, and an expensive but really bad purchase you've made?
Well, there's a couple things that I'm considering right now that could be great or could be bad. For expensive, I bought an espresso machine in the spring, or sorry, in the fall, when I was starting to think about hot drinks, and I didn't really buy it for the coffee aspect. I bought it for the steamer, so we could do like hot chocolates, basically heat things up, do hot drinks to order, and it wasn't that expensive, but the coffee portion never really. The minute the hot chocolate took off, we basically stopped doing coffees because it was too much of an obstacle in how we laid out our production. Let's see. I've been considering buying this machine that makes whipped cream, but on a kind of an industrial scale, on a larger scale, and it's like $7,000. It's relatively expensive for something that
For whipped cream.
Yeah. So a lot of whipped cream to make that work, versus us making it every day. We make it every morning, but we make it in a large mixer, but that was one thing. The best purchase we made, we got a new mixer for the Marshmallow when everything took off, and we just absolutely needed it. The one that we had was not big enough. What didn't work, it didn't work all the time. I mean, occasionally it would you would put it on speed 2 and it would go on to speed 3, and I think that we've been still pretty lean on expenses. So I think there's a lot of things that I'm planning to buy now, or buy for our second location that we're working on, that we'll see if they're good decisions or bad decisions.
Well, you beat me to it. I was definitely going to ask if y'all had plans of expanding. Where's the second location going to be?
We're still figuring it out, but it's we have a couple opportunities right now that we're exploring. But our goal is to turn Glace into kind of the next great dessert concept, and we don't want to be kind of pigeonholed by being an ice cream shop or by being a hot chocolate shop. And even though probably the smart thing would be to kind of boil it down into its core product and franchise it, or brand it, keep opening stores, just become like the Mrs. Fields of hot chocolate. But I like the creative aspect of it. I like coming up with new ideas. I like trying new things out. And to me, the fun part is, this week we're going to do this flavor, and next week we're going to have a new idea. And we, like I told you, we made an unbelievable, I would say the best frozen yogurt in the city. I mean, nobody makes it themselves anymore. And we were culturing the yogurt, and no stabilizers, no mixes. So I like, and I'm not even a frozen yogurt guy, but I loved our frozen yogurt. And so I want to incorporate that. And we made some delicious pastries when we were experimenting for the winter. We make delicious ice cream sandwiches, ice cream cakes, hot chocolates, frozen hot chocolates.
How are you preparing yourself mentally to manage all of these businesses?
What I'd say, it's tough, but I would say what I've done is I've reached out to peers and kind of people who I consider advisors, who have done this successfully, and ask, I'm trying to create kind of a team that I can reach out to when I have a legal issue or an IP question or expansion idea or a CPG product idea, so that basically before we do it, we have the resources.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Sasha.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.